What is going on, everybody? Eddy here for the lunch break here at Life of Dad on our Facebook page. We're always excited that you're joining with us. Of course, I'm Art, and with me is my co-host, my main man, Jon Finkel. How are you doing after that Patriots loss, man?
Okay? I really thought we were going to start off on a good note today. I don't know why we're bringing this up. We had a green room conversation. You didn't say anything, and I guess I'm hurt that you decided to wait to sideswipe me right at the end, right before we were supposed to start. So yes, I think this will be one of those things that's forgotten when we probably go to like the AFC Championship game again. And my dad was at the game like every year. When we play late in the season in Miami, weird things happen. Brady stinks there. The team stinks there. It's just a rite of passage. So I'm fine. I feel great. It's not going to affect things.
No, I wasn't doing it to like get you upset because this is the thing. You hit the nail on the head. This is the Patriots thing. Like they kind of stumble like towards the end of the season. You want that like little road bump because then they're going to be focused all the way through. So that's pretty good. So that's why I was one heck of a play. But anyways, we got James over here already saying like, "Go Chiefs."
Hey, dude, for now, I'm okay with Go Chiefs.
But today we're doing a really cool topic. It's called "What is your fatherhood soundtrack?" And today we're very excited to have our sponsor being Rockabye Baby. Today's show, like I said, is being brought to you by Rockabye Baby. And the cool thing is not only do they have CDs like I have right over here, and you guys are actually going to have a chance to win some, but they take like awesome music from the Beatles, Justin Timberlake, and all that, and they make it into like a lullaby form. And for all you vinyl people out there who love vinyls, guess what? They got you back too. You can get it on vinyl. This is the Creedence Clearwater Revival one, which is pretty cool. And then you also have you can download it on iTunes or whatever the case may be. So if your child needs some white noise, Rockabye Baby is the way to go. And if you go to rockabyebabymusic.com pages / Life of Dad, you'll get to see the Life of Dad selection as well. But we just want to say thanks again for the sponsorship. John, let me ask you this, man. What was your, like, did you have a song or did something take you back when you hear a song? Does it take you back to when you found out you were going to be a dad? Or was there something that, like, while your wife was pregnant, like you heard the song over and over again and was like kind of speaking to you?
Yeah. So this one, it's tied to a movie, but it's also the soundtrack that I think you'll understand, especially for when you talk about a music for whatever reason makes you think of when you're going to be a dad. So the night that we found out that my wife was pregnant, we went to go dinner and a movie. We went to see The Social Network. And after The Social Network, we stopped at CVS and picked up the pregnancy kit or whatever, went home and found out that my wife was pregnant. And so The Social Network, you know, that like ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Ding, ding. Like, it's awesome. It's a cool song. It's Trent Reznor and the whole thing. And it's a cool movie. Obviously, everybody loves that movie. And so whenever I hear that, I think of the movie and I think of the night that we found out we were going to be parents. So that in no way is like a song that I think of like as a long-term thing where I couldn't wait for my kids to hear the Social Network soundtrack. But that song and that like those piano keys when, Zuck is like running through the Harvard campus, which is actually, I think, the MIT campus or whatever.
Yeah.
I think of that. So that's like the number one song. And then the number two song is In the Delivery Room. They were like looking for songs if you wanted to play to like relax my wife or me, or I was fine pretty much, and my wife was fine too, actually. But they were flipping through like this, some dude's random like playlists, and he's like, well, what do you guys listen to? And then we finally settled on Glory Days from Springsteen. So that's what my daughter came into this world with.
Nice, man. And I love, like you said, like the Social Network. It's like, would you think about it with father? But it's that thing that like connects you to those memories, man. And you know as well as I do, music is such like an awesome, response to like you hear a song and all of a sudden it can take you back to when you were, like you said, like when you found out and all that good stuff. A lot of great things coming in right here. We've got, of course, our boy Sean Kingbird, Papa was Rolling Stone by the Temptations. Barry Cunningham, I loved her first. Forgot the artist though. It's a country song. Dallas goes Shooting Star by Bad Company, except for the last verse.
Yeah, you want to avoid that.
Nice. Father and Son by Cat Stevens.
Yeah, that's a heavy one.
Yeah. My kids love AC/DC Thunderstruck. Yeah, and I have a list. I feel like I'm you today because I have this list.
Nice.
And
Do you go by stages? Do you have a list of like songs that you enjoy with your kids versus songs like before, and then songs you want to have your kids into? Is that how you have it?
It's like we're wearing the same color shirt when we don't text each other when we do these shows, man. It's not happening today.
I like it.
It's not happening today, but yeah, you nailed that. And then Antonio goes, my fatherhood song is Puff Daddy. Can't nobody take my pride. Can't nobody hold me down. I'm lying to myself, of course.
Like Mo Kids, Mo Problems. How about that?
Notorious D.A.D. Benjamin goes.
More problems you see.
Yeah, Benjamin goes. NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and Spice Girls.
Wow.
My Best Friend by Tim McGraw. Disturbed, Shout Out 2000. Toy Story, You Got a Friend in Me.
That's a good one if your kids are into it. Like that's where, like if you're talking about the soundtrack, like the soundtrack of fatherhood that like when I'm looking back, let's say maybe when I'm looking back 15, 20 years from now, that's really the area where I think we have to think about like those different questions. So like when I think about it now, when my kids are in high school and I look back, like the songs that I wrote down that I'll be thinking about are like what my daughter used to love, like when Call Me Maybe came out, the soundtrack. For whatever reason, Shake It Off by Taylor. Well, not for whatever reason. That's a very popular song. But like those are the songs that my daughter like loves to sing to. And so I'll have those songs. What do you have for like your daughters that looking in 10, 15 years, you'll look back on those songs?
Oh yeah, no doubt. Like again, like since my oldest is 10, like it's getting like 10. There's like a decade worth of songs and all that. As Sean goes, my whole life has been set to the tune of Daddy Shark. We'll get to some more in just a second, but for me, the ones like my family and I were like, let's put on music. That's one of the reasons why I have the Life of Dad Quick 5 when we do our podcast and the Life of Dad show, where it's like when we do the Life of Dad Quick 5, one of them is like, what's your favorite song? And it changes, and obviously like it changes. But for me, one of them was Chris Brown, and it was like obviously with Chris Brown and all that stuff. But Chris Brown's song "Forever." My oldest and I, when she was, I don't know, like 9 months old, she would love dancing to that. She would just kind of like be moving her head and like dance and all those other things. And so whenever that song came on, it was just like she and I would dance together. And I actually put like from like month 1 to like their first year, and actually I still do it now for their birthdays. I do a collection of pictures that lead up to like, if it was a month, it'd be that month. But then obviously for the year, for each and when it's like a soundtrack, and it was all the music that they loved at that year that like meant something to them or meant something to me and them. So we always had that. And you talked about Taylor Swift. One of them was Bad Blood, because I think it was in that movie Ninjago, and we loved watched that movie. And so like in that movie, I mean, the song's catchy too. So that was one. Stevie Wonder is huge for me. And so when my wife was pregnant, I always like, again, like when you buy a car, you don't think no one else has a car, but when you're on the road, you see everything. Like you see the same car. So like when I found out I was gonna be a dad, like all these like songs started like meaning something more to me. So when I heard Stevie Wonder's "Isn't She Lovely," I was like, oh, and then like that was like I kept on hearing that, like, and I was like, all right, that's cool. So as like Stevie Wonder was one of them, and I forgot. I think Billy Joel was another one where I kept on hearing songs that obviously kind of had like a fatherhood tone to them. And so when I was pregnant with both of my daughters, I kind of keep on hearing that. So Stevie Wonder is huge, and I'm a big fan of his work. So that was one thing that always stuck out for me. Another song that when they were really little, when John Mayer covered Tom Petty's "Free Fallin'," and it's like an acoustic version, and it would come on our what do you call it, our radio. And so like we had a digital radio and I have like, Pandora and all that stuff. And that song would always come on. And it was like right before my daughters would take a nap. So I kind of like, hold them and dance with them, and they would fall asleep, and I put them away, put them down for their nap. And I'd always hear that song. And it was always like, it meant something meant a big deal to me. So when I hear it, I'm like a little misty eyed. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. When you were saying that, I was just thinking, I don't think I have any songs that were like misty-eyed, just because like, and this is so funny, I'm sure there's dads out there, like now I have them, like my daughter's a little older, and like there's songs that we've sing together, and that like I said, "Call Me Maybe" makes me think like fondly of that. But like when they were really little, like I would just sing, like I did so much like Springsteen and things like that already have so many other memories in my head. But I remember for 3 years I was, I'd take my son to daycare before he got into school, and that was like a good like 15, 20 minutes alone with just him in the car when my daughter started taking the bus. It was just he and I. And so I would play all the time. Like I had him locked up kind of. So he knew like the entire Nebraska, like Springsteen, so like the whole lineup. Like I got him to love like a couple of like live versions of songs. And like for a little while, like you could do Name That Tune for like 5 seconds of a Springsteen song. And he'd be like, No Surrender, Johnny 99, like Border Run. And now he's kind of lost it and moved on to his own songs. But like I had him for a little bit, a nice education version of Springsteen. But like we're seeing, as people are writing in here, we're seeing a lot of songs that I think, you know, AC/DC, Aerosmith, Zeppelin, ZZ Top, like Thunder is great because like, or Thunderstruck from AC/DC is good because it's in the Iron Man movies that my son loves, like, and they love the beginning of that song. Like every kid loves the beginning. Every human loves the beginning of that song. So I agree with you, Mike. That's a real big one. And then as a dad, you end up like you and I are like we love rap music, and like it's hard at this point, you know, at our kids' age. I'm not going to be like, listen, let me tell you guys about Naughty by Nature. Like you can't get into that stuff yet, so you have to steer clear of some of the rap that we grew up with. Like I'm not going to blast the Chronic just yet for my 6-year-old and 8-year-old, but I can't wait till I do. I always wonder how those conversations will go. Like, how does Nothing But a G Thing or, you know, Let Me Ride play when my son's like 15? Is it lame? Is it awesome? I don't know. That'll be very interesting moving in the future when that happens.
Oh man, so like, and it's funny you mentioned that. So like, I'll put in our playlist through our, you know, our iPhones and stuff like that. I'll put in stuff that's clean, that's rap, like Bone Thugs and Harmony, The Crossroads. I put that in there, and sometimes you can get their reaction like, "What is this?"
Yeah, well, it's funny. Yesterday morning, I was working out in the garage, and usually my kids will leave me alone or go for a bike ride. I can see myself. Most of the time, though, I'm in there alone. I'm in there pretty early. And on the weekends, though, occasionally they'll come in, and sometimes I forget that I'm listening to, like, you know, there's some of the songs I listen to, it's just an F word every 4 seconds because, you know, it's DMX or whoever, and it's fine. We're adults and we listen to it. But sometimes, like, my daughter will come in, and if I'm playing it, like, on my phone through a speaker and it's loud, I forget, like, the reaction she'll have when she walks in. She's like, what? They're swearing, and what are they doing? I'm like, oh, hold on. It's like, and then I have a funny conversation yesterday in particular where I was like, I'm like, oh, let me put this down. Let me get my headphones. If you guys are going to play in the, you know, driveway, I'll put my headphones in. And my daughter's like, but why would you want to listen to all those words? And there's really no answer because you're telling them all the time not to use those words. And I was just like, because you can't be like, well, they pump me up, make me stronger, because then they're going to be like, well, I want to get stronger. Like, I want to listen to the F word all the time, listening. So, like, there's no answer. And I was just like, well, it's just daddy music, and I'll, you know, and I'm not going to put it on. You're right. I'll change it. And as I'm, you know, trying to do it, it's a hard road to toe there.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate the honesty right there too. There was what we were listening to something. We're gonna download something this weekend. I think it was from Hotel Transylvania 3, right? It had Bruno Mars 24 Karat.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so like we're listening for the versions, and we listened to the one on his album. And he says yes, we're like, and the kid, he was like, what? I'm like, no, don't listen to that. So, but like I think we got the clean one off of like, now this is what I call music, whatever. But someone actually mentioned Dominic saying Daddy by Jewel Santana. Kingbird saying my 3-year-old daughter is all about Queen. Somebody to Love, Bohemian Rhapsody. Nice. Always loved Queen, but my daughter's making me play it over and over again. Will remind me of her. That's great. Where was the one? Oh, Zombie. My family loves Zombie by the Cranberries. Nice.
Zombies. That's a surprise song. Actually, fun fact, I saw them in concert a long time ago as like the opening act to Tom Petty back in like '96 or '97. Yeah. And me and my buddy took our high school girlfriends at the time. We were just getting ripped on by everybody imaginable for going to a Cranberries concert. And I admitted then and I admit it now. It was a great concert. They were really good. I really enjoyed it.
It's funny too, like, you know, especially back then, like depending on, obviously I think you were in the same music genre I was in, like, you know, maybe like pop, but mostly like rap and all R&B and all that stuff. But like you go to a concert like that, like, oh, why are you going to that? James says my daughter turns on Kids Bop while I'm driving and sings in the back seat. This one right here, Dallas says, this is very like heartfelt. My daughter and my late fiance would sing 1,000 Miles together before she passed. Not fatherhood, but definitely ingrained in my mind as a father. Thanks very much for sharing that.
Yeah, that's a good song. What's the one? Not 1,000 Miles. What's the one on the piano? I think it's Vanessa Carlton. My kids love that one. I played it for my daughter a few times. It's like da-na-na-na-na-na. And I think it's
I think that is like, yeah, I think that is
1,000 Miles.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that one. Yeah, my daughter loves that one, and I've always wanted to learn to play it on the piano, but we'll see.
One of the biggest things right here is AJ's writing in with his kids are obsessed with The Greatest Showman. Like everybody that sees, again, mentioned the Life of Dad show when we do the Life of Dad Quick Five. A lot of people say favorite movie, Greatest Showman. Then it's going to piggyback into the soundtrack because I love that. And of course, Hugh Jackman, aka Wolverine, is the singer for that. And I guess he's doing he's going around and doing like a one-man show, or I guess there's people behind him, but he's going to be going from like different towns and like kind of doing like, singing and all that other stuff. So if you're into that and you're into Hugh Jackman and his singing, make sure you check that out.
That's good when that comes up and it's a good song and it's like good soundtrack. My daughter and my wife love Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia 2. And like, for some reason, we all have these songs and types of music that just don't hit you where it sounds good. And like when they play that soundtrack, it just doesn't do it for me. And all of the songs I can probably even sing by heart. I hear them so much, but they play them so much. Yeah. They just don't hit me right in my musical taste buds. I can't stand them for some reason.
I would say like one of the biggest soundtracks, and this was because of my daughters at their age at the time, was Let It Go, like the Frozen soundtrack. Right?
Oh yeah, that was.
And that one's like all right, because that one's played over and over again. But the two that I thought was pretty good was Do You Want to Build a Snowman? And In Summer, when Olaf is singing about like he's just like
clever.
Idiotic snowman, just thinking like, I want to be a snowman in the summertime. Why not? So like that. My daughter, my dad was into Pink Floyd. Graham was saying, here's another thing too. When we were talking about like, the Iron Man movie and all that stuff. I love the fact that Marvel is putting in, like, not just Marvel, but movies put in like hits that we like grew up on, and all of a sudden like our kids, like, they love the Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin. Not because I played it on a radio or iPad or whatever thing like that. It's because it was in Thor Ragnarok, and like that scene when like everything is going down and Thor's wrecking some stuff up and playing that. Man, we all love that song. Like, can you download that? I was like, yeah, sure. So they like sometimes when we go to like basketball games for my daughter or like some of their practice, like, play that song. I'm like, all right, they get hyped.
Yeah, it is funny, the songs that like randomly, like I've tried every now and then, especially if you're in the car or even if you're just outside playing whatever in the garage or something, I'll just think like, you know what, I'm gonna put on Crisscross Jump, see what happens, or like I'll just have a song hit my head. I'm like, I'm gonna play this song. I know it's a little older, or I'll play some. The other day I was playing some Bon Jovi for my daughter. I was like, I don't know how the reference came up, and I was like, no, Bon Jovi's like, here, listen. She's 7, so whatever. But I played like Bad Medicine and Dead or Wanted Dead or Alive, and some of those songs, and the song from Young Guns, which is actually a really good song even still. And they're good. Like they were a hit. I think they didn't do too bad.
Yeah, you just kind of mentioned like putting in songs and trying things out. I was mentioning Bone Thugs and Harmony. So I always wondered, like, when I would listen to a song. I mean, granted, maybe it'd been like an oldies for me, but my parents thought it was new or something contemporary for them. We got a dose of that. My wife and I, we were going somewhere, and No Doubt's like "Don't Speak" came on. Not that I'm a huge No Doubt fan, right? But that was a song like
a big song.
Anybody could probably relate to that, whether it was a breakup song or whatever. Like, there was like, you heard that song if you were going like through the motions of either going out with somebody or trying to get them to like you, whatever the case may be, right? And I was like, all right, let's do it. My oldest, she goes, oh man, this song is so boring. Like, like I'm falling asleep. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, you like Taylor Swift, you like all this pop music, Katy Perry. I'm like, this is kind of similar. She goes, Dad, no, it's not. And I'm like, oh, and then all of a sudden I had that moment where I'm like, this is what my parents must have felt like when I was the one.
Here's the thing. I always wonder that, because like your parents' music, somebody listened to Temptations before, or for my parents, same thing. They're, Temptations, Eagles, or they're even Eagles is even a little. That's more of when they were in college and stuff. Like some with the Beatles and like classic songs that are good. Like they had a, Elvis or whoever. Like those songs are songs that are still played, in movies and commercials and all that. But like the earlier songs, like Temptations and stuff, or Boston Pops, or any of those, like they're okay. But there's no way when your kids are old enough that when you're like, listen, I want to introduce you guys to Onyx, they're going to be like, it's boring. It's not possible. Like they might say it's too loud and it's stupid, but they're just shouting or whatever it is. Or if you're like, listen, here's let me tell you a little bit about Jay-Z, or here's a little MC Ren that you haven't heard of, or like how do you introduce your kid to NWA with any kind of possible frame of reference that was allowed to be sung? Like it's going to be I know the new generation of kids like that are in high school learned it from watching the new movie Straight Outta Compton. But if you play Greatest Hits NWA, any of those songs to maybe when your son or daughter is 15, 16, 17, 18, they're going to think we were like absolutely no rules, say whatever you want. Because you basically, the whole song is like a safe space modern nightmare, right? It's just absolutely offending every person on earth. Men, women, police officers, the law and order, everything.
Up is down, left is right.
Yeah, cats and dogs living together. Massive there.
Nice Ghostbuster reference, love it. No, but like another thing that kind of piggyback off of that, where it's like they're gonna be like, it's probably like too loud, but there's gonna be certain other songs that they'll probably like vibe and like understand and like, all right, this is cool. I'm just wondering like when that age is gonna happen. But then you mentioned NWA and like what was going on at the time. I mean, we white kid from suburbia, right? I enjoyed the music, but obviously there was some meaning behind and why they were NWA was rapping about it, right? And then like take it back to like Zeppelin or the Beatles, or I don't know, like some band that was like very into very political and like showing off like the minorities' point of view, right? And like as when I was growing up and they were showing me that, I'm like, I had no recollection or didn't even care what they were singing about. I like maybe like the melody or like the guitar or whatever the case may be, and you really wouldn't think about that. So you bring up a really good point. Mitch is actually our boy Julio, maybe having some Bacardi. I don't know. He says, my son sings "You Spin Me Right Around, Baby" and "Yellow Submarine." Nice. Speaking of Beatles, Mitch goes Beatles, "Shine Down" and Eagles.
Kelly, when your son doesn't know who someone is, like that always drives me nuts. This happened to me and of course, why would a 7.5-year-old know? But one of these mornings I was talking about in the garage, I was like really into it. Mama Said Knock You Out. I had an LL Cool J like playlist on it. And think about what that means to like a 7.5-year-old. They're like, okay, who's Mama? We don't hit people. Like, what is going on? And I was like, well, here's the thing. Like, LL was like, he was an artist who was having a downtime in his career, and he wasn't sure if he would put out another album. And he had a meeting with his mom, and his mom was like, knock him out. And he like got all excited. And like, I'm going through all this to my 7.5-year-old daughter. I'm like, doesn't it make you want to knock somebody out? And she's like, we don't supposed to hit. And I was like, oh no, this is so confusing. Listen. Yeah. When you're 12 or 15, you're going to understand why this song is so great, and you're going to be working out to it, or you're going to be playing soccer to it, or whatever you do. But like Mama Said Knock You Out was really like a personal song for LL. There's really no swearing in it. It's just an awesome hardcore song. But again, will that when your kids are 12, 14, 15, 16 even translate, or is it going to be like, it's okay? Yeah, I think it will, but who knows? Like, by then they'll be on. I don't even know. My brother and I were joking. Like every year, the thing that makes me feel old is when the Golden Globe and the Grammy nominations, and then all these things come out, and I know less and less. And like I still keep up with rap amazingly of all the music. Like I still listen to the new playlist. Like I could still, but every other genre, I'm like, don't know that person, don't know that person, don't know who that is, never heard of them. And I'm sure as my daughter gets a little older and listens to more of it, I'll have a little bit more of a beat on what's going on. But when I was like maybe 7 for 8 of not hearing of any of the nominees this year, it was a record out of touch moment for me.
Well, here's the thing too. So kind of going with that, it's like, we're like the old men yelling, "Get off our lawn," right? So I'm a big Mortal Kombat fan, huge Mortal Kombat fan. They're having like last week, they had like this, gaming conference and all this stuff. And they released the Mortal Kombat 11 awesome trailer, right? Yes. Looks awesome. All of a sudden, like in the beginning, you kind of have like, there's no music, and then it kind of slowly fades in.
A rapper came in. What's his name?
Yeah, and then it turns into like mumble rap. Like, what? Like, what? No, I don't want that. Like, growing up, man, you had the Mortal Kombat, and they had like different like 3,000 different techno versions of it.
Yeah.
I wasn't a techno guy, but I tell you one thing, I liked all of that music. Yes, I bought like all the different Mortal Kombat soundtracks because I was into Mortal Kombat, and it just made me think, obviously, of like Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and like I'm listening to this, and I'm like, and so everybody around my age, when I shared it on my Facebook page, are like, go look at the comments, and they're gold. And like some people are like, this, the game is lit, the soundtrack is lit, and then like you can tell people that are my age, like, the hell is this song doing here?
I like those. I actually like the rap in there. I don't know. I meant to look up who it was by. I thought that was really.
John is going to be done with our show for this portion.
Yeah, but here's what's funny. So when you just said that, it made me think of like the things that I even thought were lame. Like, what about like how do you explain the popularity of like jock jams to your kids when you even now you're like, oh, so terrible. I'm sorry. Or like, who let the dogs out? Or these songs that just became huge, and somebody's like, wait, this was really popular when you were, 24 years old or 20 years old. And then there's other songs that like the thong song or something like that. Like when kids are looking back on like the biggest songs of the year and they're like, wait a minute, this was the best you had to offer. Yeah. This is it.
It's always fun to see my dad rap. I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy. Being he's a country and rock buff, those songs will always stick with me. Nice. And Sean also said something too. I mean, there's so many good things up here. Where is it? He said something about like when he's a grandfather, he can't wait to tell his kids about Eminem or his grandkids about Eminem.
See, yeah, but I think like there's our Eminem, Jay-Z, Tupac, some of these guys, like there's a discussion to be had about their actual like wordplay and actual lyrical skills and even writing skills to a certain extent with how they're able to do what they do and how they're able to write what they write. Like, I think that's important. And like what Kingbird's saying, like mumble rap and some of these other auto-tune genres where it's basically like a shtick, it's hard to respect that and be like, oh yeah, no, they're really popular because they figured out that if they do this on auto-tune with the choppy flow or whatever, that was just a time period in life, or in music. But then if you look at Biggie or Tupac, like here's the actual artistry there,
Yeah, no doubts. 100% spot on, sir. Camille, yes, you can definitely watch it. It's always on our video section here at Life of Dad Facebook page. And also lifeatdad.com. We house these videos right there as well. So if you're following us on Twitter, Art Eddy3, and then Jon_Finkel, and then also Life of Dad Show, and at Lunch Break LOD. We just started up a new Twitter handle. Make sure you follow that because we'll be doing show announcements as well. So thank you for bringing that up. Jose goes, my 14-year-old loves some CCR. Oh, look at that. Speaking of CCR, Rockabye Baby. Yeah. CCR is great because rolling on the river. Like that was the thing. So like when my dad was like, when he was playing, like, obviously vinyl, because we had a record player, we'd be, like, getting our rolling down the river, man. And that was, I love, like, Bad Moon Rising. Who knew a kid would, like, love it? My parents probably got a kick out of it, like, seeing me dance to CCR. But it was, like, I loved all that stuff, like Fortunate Son. And when that came out from Forrest Gump soundtrack, I was like, all right.
Well, you just touched upon maybe the most essential, pivotal bridge between generations is the Forrest Gump soundtrack. So, like, when that came out, I think it was 2 full CDs, right? It was like 30 or 40 songs, and the movie was so good, and everybody went to see it. It was the same summer, I think, of Lion King and a couple big tentpole movies. And when the Forrest Gump soundtrack came out, it was the first time, I think, 'cause we were in high school, that you had a soundtrack that was really just rock solid music, basically from the 70s and maybe early 80s, that we all agreed was good, and it bridged generations. Like, I remember even talking to my dad, like, how come you never play these songs that much? And he's like, well, my dad wasn't huge into music, but like he got that soundtrack and we listened to it in the car. We were going on family trips and stuff like that, or just around the house. And I remember, so I was like the first time I looked at my dad, my parents, and I was like, oh, so you guys did like good music. You just don't play it all the time.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, but yeah, so there's certain songs that will obviously will remind us of our, grown up and our parents, and then hopefully too, like I wonder, what songs my kids will hear and they'll be like, oh, I think of like either my wife or me or all of us as a family, and I can't wait for them to do that. I know that one of my sisters, she would make like because my parents obviously don't have like smartphones. Well, my dad doesn't have a smartphone and all that stuff, but like she would make CDs for him like at Christmas time, and it's like songs that like, you know, dad and daughter mix one, volume one, and like next year would be volume two and all that stuff, and just songs that you know, had memories for them too. So I'm wondering what songs my daughters will think of me. Because I'm a bit, you know, if they always ask me like, who is your favorite artist? Because we like Taylor Swift or Katy Perry. I'm like, I like Tupac. And like, who's that? Can we listen to him? I'm like,
No.
in a bit, in a bit, you know, when you get a little bit older. And again, like I'm gonna have those questions. Like you're gonna have those questions too. Like, you know, when you're working out, like, why are you listening to that? Like that song hit them up, man. Like that would get pumped up before a basketball game. But like if you listen to it, it's like
no Vaseline. No Vaseline doesn't work for kids.
No Vaseline was probably one of like that was and again too, like we'd be playing out and we have to like watch because they had a boombox in my backyard when we're playing hoops and stuff like that. And if like younger kids came off, we had to turn it off and all that, which is, you know, because we want to be respectful of kids. But it was like, man, like that's like so many good songs, but it wasn't just about maybe the lyrics, but it was just about the beat, the way it would rhyme, and just
it's not just rap. Like I was a big and to some extent probably still am like Guns N' Roses fan. I remember like when you play I think it's Appetite for Destruction, and you play Mr. Brownstone and some of these other songs that are just, they're not kids songs. They're not, you know, friendly for kids songs, and like you got to figure out how you're gonna do it.
Yeah, and again, so true. So like, you know, just with all things in parenting, there's no handbook. You just kind of see like how the tide goes, right, and how it moves you.
Well, it's interesting what you said. Like, how do you, if you could pick the three artists that your kids think of you for, like realistically, until they're a certain age, you're probably taking 2/3 of the artists you like out of the equation. So now it's almost like, yeah, no, you know, Michael Jackson or Bruce Springsteen or U2 or, you know, I don't know, Dave Matthews, whoever your local area, you know, band that, you know, that you grew up with, perfect for your age group. Or for some people, Usher, like we were joking around on Usher lyrics earlier, like there's moments in time where all of a sudden some artist is like your favorite for a brief period. And it's interesting to see which one of those, you know, your kids will relate to you and they'll look fondly on of like, oh, whenever I hear this song, I think of my dad. Like you kind of hope it's not, you know, one of these like really hardcore songs, but who knows?
Yeah. Kingbird says Patsy Cline, Conway Twitty, Hank Williams will always be tied to my grandma. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be into country music. Pre-90s country, of course. LOL. Love you, Graham. I gotta stay right here. Where was this one? Jacob. This is great. How do you protect your kids from crappy music their classmates listen to? Like, what exactly is the point of turn down for what? What makes my ears bleed? Okay, this is gonna be like maybe a little bit. It's gonna be a little sacrilegious, and I'm just trying to draw parallels. Turn down for what could be their generation's version of slam.
Yeah. Here's what you do, Jacob. I'm gonna tell you how to do it. You say that you love that song and you think it's cool.
Done.
You're done. Instead of saying this hurts my ears, I don't understand how you listen to this. What you have to do is walk in a room and go, just start moving. Man, I love this song. This reminds me of my time in high school when I was just doing my cool stuff. I'm going to put that on my playlist and let them catch you listening to it like outside or working in the garage and moving your head with your old dad moves. And I bet you pretty soon you never hear that song in your house again.
Oh, and then also too, just put in like corny dad jokes. Like when it's time for bed, you gotta like, hey guys, you know what? What? Turn down for what? Bedtime.
Yeah. There. Turn down. Turn down for who? Turn down for what? Whoa! Just, I mean, if you embrace these songs, they will hate them.
Yeah. No. Oh, perfect, man. Every kid needs to listen to Nirvana. I think I talked about this before on the Facebook Live shows where it's funny, like when you were growing up, it was hard to find a Nirvana shirt, right? Because obviously they like came from Seattle, the Northwest, and all that. And so like merch would finally go to different places, but it was at that one really weird store that, you know, I don't know if you lived near it and like, hey, mom, can you take me to the store? Like, no, we're not going to that store, right?
Yeah.
But now it's like you see them in Target, like.
Like Tower Records had like one area in the corner of shirts that you could never really get a hold of, and they'd order them for you. They used to have a magazine you could flip through and order like concert shirts. At least the Tower Records that I had, like if you couldn't go to the concert, like I think that's the biggest issue that you have, dude, is like trying to figure out when and where to get this stuff, and now it's cool. Oh, Jacob, yeah, see, I'm telling you, man, stick with lunch break, dude. We will get
Jacob,
this covered.
seriously, let us know, man. Email us or stay with us on the show when we do the show every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern and then Wednesdays at 1 p.m. This is gonna be like this is another episode we're gonna do. Again, each episode spawns into a new one. We're gonna do dad experiments and see if they work. We're gonna ask other dads to do stuff with their kids and see if things work. We'll do some like hypotheses about certain things, and if it works, we're gonna ask other dads to test it out. It's gonna be like the dad version of Test It.
Yeah, dude. My kids, again, they're not old enough to be embarrassed by the fact that I like stuff. They're still a little too young, but I've had that strategy in my back pocket forever. Whatever, in 4 or 5 years, my daughter's 10, 11, like your daughter's age, and they're starting to try to feel cool, and I can't handle it. I'm just going to lean into it, and they're going to catch me, doing my meathead jump ropes and deadlifts in the garage to whatever song they think I'm supposed to hate. And then they're going to be like, my dad, this song can't be cool if my dad's jump roping in the garage to it.
Jon Kingbird just hit the trifecta right there with, piling on with the advice we had. Throw in one of the Fortnite dances while you sing Turn Down for What? Well said. Well said.
I think it works for everything. Just take it in and be like, when they come home from school, be like, oh, I was just playing Fortnite. You didn't see? Oh, I just moved to the next level. This game's awesome. Like, nothing makes the thing less cool than if you as a dad are also into it.
What's up, fellow students?
You're wearing your T Swizzle shirt playing Fortnite. It's over.
No doubt. Great show as always. Thanks everybody for your great comments, and we love helping out dads. We want to know what happened with you, man. Let us know, Jacob, if our advice helped and all that stuff. Add in Jon Kingbird's other advice about doing some Fortnite dances. And again, thanks to Rockabye Baby for sponsoring the show. Go to their website, rockabyebabymusic.com. Check out the Life of Dad section there as well. We'll see y'all next Wednesday. I don't know what the topic is, but we'll let you know. Just follow us on Twitter and also
on our new handle. Give it to them.
Yeah, it's at LunchboxLOD. Follow us there, and maybe for the first few on Twitter, and for the first few people that follow us, you might get a prize from us. So check that out. But thanks for everybody checking out the show. John and I will see y'all later. Peace.